Welcome to the Animation Career Community Podcast, where we answer your questions on how to grow, maintain, and transform your animation career at every stage. I'm your host, John.
And I'm your host, Kathy. Today we're talking with two very special guests, Eileen Kohlhepp and Sarah Gaudemar. Both are friends and colleagues of mine, and both are experts in their own creative fields. Eileen is a producer and animator who's worked on projects like Anomalisa and Marcel the Shell. Sarah's a director and animator who's worked on projects like Coraline and Robot Chicken, among many others. Get ready, it's going to be a good one. Welcome, Eileen and Sarah. I wanted to start by getting a background on you guys a little bit. So I was wondering, Sarah, how did you get started in animation and end up directing?
It's a long question then.
Yeah, well, keep it as concise as possible.
I got started in animation because I took some classes in college. I went to film school at NYU, got into the animation department. And then when I graduated, I did a few little jobs, but then I got lucky that that's when they started Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV. And they were just really desperate to have anyone on the East Coast who could do any sort of stop motion. So you didn't have to be good, which was great for me. And so that was my foot in the door. And that from there just, spiraled into, I got a bunch of jobs. And then the directing thing is kind of a newer thing where I'm just mostly at the moment doing it out of survival because there's just not a lot of jobs out there. Yeah. But I did, I don't know, I kind of wanted to go more big picture because I was kind of tired of being just the cog in the wheel and it was kind of tiring. So I got kind of excited about more, as you get older, you want to be more managerial, I guess.
100%. Yeah.
Tell other people to do stuff.
Yeah. I totally relate to that. Getting into stop motion was kind of like, even in Toronto, it was like, they would hire anybody at that time. And it was you were lucky to get your foot in the door, but it was still kind of like a mishmash of people with different backgrounds doing it. So it's interesting to hear that it was sort of the same in New York as well.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
When people ask me now, the younger people, they ask like, how do I break in? And it's like, I mean, a lot of it is also just timing. So it's really hard to what is my advice? I don't know. I was in the right place at the right time. I mean, it was luck.
That probably still applies. Still probably applies to even younger people. Yeah.
And timing, especially, part of the reason why I got my job at Deathmatch, which was my first real animation job, was because Sarah left and a bunch of other animators left Deathmatch and went to the West Coast. And then they desperately needed people to fill in, to come in and take over those jobs. So I had a friend of mine another fellow animator who I went to RISD with, who was working with Sarah and was leaving for the West Coast. And he was like, you should come in and audition. So I was able to audition on Deathmatch and kind of fill one of those positions from all the crew that was leaving. So there was a whole fresh group of people that came that was in May of 1999.
And had you done it in school or anything before that?
I had, I actually went to RISD for animation and illustration. And when I was there, I was doing stop motion. I took a couple stop motion classes and really, really loved stop motion more than 2D. I thought I was going in when I was like, I'm going to be a 2D animator. And I got in there and I was like, I can't consistently draw over and over again and keep things on model. I'm like, I can draw, but I can't draw the other people in my class who were amazing.
That was a shock to me in school. I remember thinking, oh yeah, I love drawing, but I don't love this really intense technical matching of frame to frame drawing. It's a really different experience than just drawing. It's really impressive that people do it. I'm very impressed that people have that technical skill. And so after you were at Deathmatch, did you also follow Sarah?
No. Sarah actually came back. Sarah came back. I think. I left Deathmatch and I actually went into 2D. I went to Daria and worked in layout for a little bit because Deathmatch was a boot camp and I learned a ton in the year plus that I was there, but it was also a bit, I think I could say this, abusive. So I was like, hey, I'd like to do something slightly different that is not this mentally challenging. So I had applied for Daria at the same time I had tested for Daria at the same time I had tested for Deathmatch. And they had offered me both jobs, but I chose Deathmatch because I thought it was more challenging and it was going to allow me to do like straight up animation. And I would learn a ton. And then after I had learned and I was like, I would like to do a job where I get paid and not abused, I went over to Daria and worked on season 5 and one of the movies as a layout artist, and had a lot of fun. But that was actually the first and last 2D job I ever did.
So were you animating on Daria?
No, I was a layout artist.
Oh,
so
layout.
it was basically like key poses. It was a lot of photocopying and cutting characters into key poses in backgrounds for the teams in Korea.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I really love that show.
I do too.
Yeah.
It was such a fun, a weird '90s relic.
She's a great character.
I think they're rebooting another one. They're rebooting some of it, like some of the characters in the show. But yeah, that show still stands up. It holds up. It's such a good show.
And how did you like? I know you've done a lot more animations in that gap there, but how did you find yourself in a producing role? I know you've done some production management stuff as well.
Yeah, it basically kind of came out of necessity, because like the next 10 years after Deathmatch, it was like I was hopping around from whatever jobs were available pretty much, because after 9/11, MTV's animation department in New York was shut down. There was a big merger between CBS and Paramount, and I think CBS and Paramount, and they essentially like shut down all in-house animation for MTV. So there's like 2 floors of like all these shows, and everything just got folded. So I actually came to Los Angeles for a couple months to work on a web series called Sweet J Presents, which
I was just about to ask, when did you do that? Okay.
Yeah, so I came out January of 2002 to work on that. Oh, no. It was 2001. It was January of 2001. And then I came back in May and worked on the last thing for the last movie for Daria. And then I finished that in August of 2001. Then 9/11 happened. And then December of 2001, they shut down all of MTV Animation right before Christmas.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's always the way.
Just so you guys know, if you don't, Sweet J turned into Robot Chicken, I guess, you said 2001? That's like 4 years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But that was an important moment in the history of stop motion.
Yeah. I didn't know who it was.
It actually was, it was Seth and Matt had sold it to, they had gotten a deal to produce a web series for Sony Screen Blast, which was one of the first streaming platforms. So It was very, very new in 2001, and it could only be streamed on PCs, not Macs. So I couldn't ever watch the show. And we did like 10 like 4-minute episodes over the course of like 3-4 months. And it was like Mark Caballero and Seamus Walsh from Screen Novelties, and Chris Finnegan and myself and another animator, Mike Wolf. And it was just like 5 or 6 of us in there, making these little shorts really quick and fast. And the producers were Alex and Corey, who are the producers and owners of Shadow Machine. And they spent the next 3 years with Seth and Matt pitching it around, trying to get it sold, because it went nowhere with Sony. And they eventually got picked up by Cartoon Network, and it became Robot Chicken. But it became Robot Chicken like 3 months into our production on the show. It was just an untitled
Seth Green
show.
Project. It was called
the untitled Seth Green Project.
That's what it was when I signed on.
I remember I was working in stop motion like early in my career at that point, and I remember Robot Chicken came out, like the whole crew. It was just so impressed with the show. It was like everyone's favorite show. It was such a fun time. I don't know what the experience of working on the show was like, but did you enjoy it? I know you guys both worked on it, right?
Yeah, first season was really fun, because I think it was like after there was a period of time, like basically in 2002, 2003, where work was really super, super slow for a lot of people. People had been working, I know you guys, Sarah, you had been working in Portland and a lot of the projects up there. But
just before Robot Chicken, there was a long period of unemployment. So yeah, it was kind of amazing.
So it was kind of nice. Everybody came from all over. So it's like I came from New York to work to LA to work on Robot Chicken. People came down from Portland, moved down from Portland. People came from San Francisco. We had like the best of the best on season 1. I feel like we had a lot of really, really good animators and really good builders and puppets, and
a lot of OSHA violations in there, but
total OSHA violations.
Like what was the spray booth in the puppet department just vented into the general stage that everybody was in?
Oh my God.
I have story. Yeah, it wasn't any better here. I was animating one day and I hear this whooshing noise, and I came out right next to my studio, which is just a curtain separating me. Someone was sanding paint off of something. That was really healthy, I'm sure.
And all of the wood that we used too had a bunch of like formaldehyde or something, right? And we're all like sawing in, and all the particles are in the air.
Oh my God, that's from the sealants and stuff, probably, right?
We're all fine now, right?
Yeah.
We're all fine now.
And probably the countless number of buildings that had asbestos in them as well.
Yeah, well, we were all like, I don't know about you guys, but I was like really young, and a lot of the crew was really young. So I don't think anybody was equipped to be like, is this bad?
We were grateful to be working and having a good time.
Yeah.
But I think also a lot of the crew that was older, and like the people who had been doing it for years, they were just used to working in those situations. And it's just like, all right, you just set something up and you do it as you can do it. And so there wasn't really that wasn't top of mind to a lot of people. They're like, just get in there, get the job, and get it done, and this is how we do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, especially at periods of time where there's no work, right? Like right now, you'd kind of be happy to take even a crappy job, right?
Yeah.
So how did you end up producing? Was it after we worked together in California?
It actually was prior to that. I started doing it kind of out of necessity. It's kind of similar to what like Sarah's doing now, where it's like she's completely producing her own like self-contained projects. And I think the first thing I produced was in 2005. I produced a 1-minute segment for Family Guy that a friend of mine worked on the show, and he was like, "Oh, we need to do a stop motion thing that's like a parody of the Chevron cars, like the Aardman Chevron cars." So they gave me everything, and I basically put together a budget for it, and I built and animated and did the whole job myself. And that was kind of my first experience producing. And I did one other project for them the next year. And it also kind of came about because in New York, I was living in New York up until the end of 2011. And a lot of the jobs that I would get called for, get called for and they'd be like, "Oh, we need an animator." And then I would show up and it would be like, "Oh, we need someone also to come up with to build everything, someone to build the puppets, someone to rig this, someone to like," it was more than an animator job. It was, so I would by default kind of become the animation supervisor director and put together an entire team of people to run the project. And I just slowly started getting more and more of those gigs where I'm like, okay, they'd call me for one thing and I'd be like, "You actually need this." And I would fill out the entire team with what was needed. So I started kind of building those skills in New York in the commercial world. And then when I landed back in Los Angeles after Cinderbiter shut down, I continued to work as an animator, but I decided I really wanted to move on to working in production. So after I had worked on Anomalisa as an animator, and then I had worked on season 1 of Amazon's Tumbleleaf at Bixpix as an animator, one of the lead animators for that season. And I decided I was just too old and exhausted at the ripe old age of 37. I was too old and exhausted to be a full-time
We're like
series
professional
animator.
Sports players, you know? It's hard on the body.
It is hard on the body.
Really
Very early.
My shoulders and my back are so much happier with me now at my age than they were then. So I think it was partially, I was like, I took a huge step back and took a job as just a coordinator on a friend of ours, actually on Screen Novelties, was doing Elf Buddy's musical Christmas, which was a stop motion special. And I talked to my friend Chris, who was producing it, and I was like, "Can I just coordinate? I want to coordinate so I have the credit and I get the experience." And he's like, "Well, it doesn't pay much, and it's not really it's not really exciting. You're just basically going to be doing buying and runs and whatever everybody needs." And I was like, "That's fine."
Well, I mean, that's a different aspect of the industry, but I feel like there's a lot of room for interesting things to happen in that role too. Like whenever I'm in a managerial position or coordinating anything, I get to meet everybody. I get to hear what everybody's doing. I get to really understand how the project's running, which I find fascinating personally. But well, maybe we should go talk a little bit about Cinderbiter and how we met, because like it was such a formative experience for me personally. It sounds like maybe it had an impact on you guys too. So like 2011, we all got hired by Disney / Pixar to work at a studio called Cinderbiter, which had like an alternative name at the time. I was always confused what the studio was called.
Shademaker, maybe?
Yeah, it was it had a Shademaker attached to it as well. And it was for a Henry Selick film he was directing. I think it was affiliated with Disney too, right? Or yeah, I guess they're all
Pixar.
Yeah, and Pixar, that's right, yeah. And we worked on that for roughly a year. We all got hired as animators. I think it was more than a year, maybe.
I think more than a year for you. I think because you were there before we started. I came in January of 2012, and Sarah came in, what, March of 2012?
Yeah, like March maybe, I think, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, didn't realize it was that short for you guys. Yeah, and then the studio got shut down, but it was in San Francisco. They built the whole studio from scratch. It had been going for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
In a chocolate factory.
Yeah, it was
still in the break room.
I forgot about that, in the lunchroom, yeah.
Which somebody climbed into a couple times. I think people climbed inside of the thing, which is crazy.
And never came out?
No, they
never came out.
I have pictures of people going inside the chocolate thing.
Wow.
It was an interesting building. Also, like a really interesting place to have a studio, San Francisco, like in the Mission District where we were working. But yeah, and then I think it was a year and a half in for me. We all got called into a big meeting and they shut the whole project down. But I look back on it more fondly now than I did at the time. But yeah, I think earlier we were saying that it was kind of a traumatic bonding experience. But maybe you could talk about how you guys got involved and what you guys thought of the project. Sarah, go.
Okay, I go first.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when Sarah Serrata reached out to me. She's the producer. I actually had a job offer on Paranorman. So I remember your episode, Kathy, you were talking about when you have like multiple job offers, which doesn't happen these days. But there was the whole like trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. And I, at the time I had just had a baby, my second kid, and I was married. And so I had a whole family. So I couldn't just like when I was younger, just move anywhere, which I had done. Like, I think after I graduated college until Robot Chicken, I moved every 6 months for like years. That's how I lived, like a nomadic lifestyle to wherever the job was. So now I had to think about, where does my husband want to live? And for him, he was like, San Francisco, yes. Portland, no. So that was kind of the thinking on that one. But
was it like an equal weighting creatively for you? Like I know the project didn't go through, so in hindsight, maybe you would have preferred taking Paranorman. But like in terms of like the job offers themselves, were you weighing that as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had worked on Coraline, so going back to Leica was, I knew that was going to be a good thing. This one, the San Francisco thing, was more of we're starting up something new. So it was kind of more of an unknown, but I'd worked with Henry before. And so I was really honored that he would want me back. So that was cool. So yeah, I guess I can't remember much of the time. I actually kind of remember also that I never really gave Sarah a solid answer because I was deciding, and then I didn't hear back from her for months. And then I got a phone call from Eric out of the blue where he was like, so I hear you're joining the team and we should talk about what's going to happen. And I was like, wait, I'm working on it. So it was like, okay.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of makes that sounds about right for the experience of communication when we were there. Yeah. So Eric Layton was our animation supervisor. At one point, wasn't he like co-directing? I can't remember what his title was.
So yeah. I think he was like bumped to co-directors at a certain point, but that might have been before we even started.
Yeah. So I came on as a junior animator. So they kind of put me with the other juniors, and we were tucked away in like a weird little room for like a good 4 months or something like that, just doing like trying to impress Eric with her animation with a bunch of sticks and blocks and stuff. So when you guys started showing up, I was like, oh, this is much better. So Eileen, you showed up before Sarah, right? You were saying?
Yeah, I actually was supposed to, I think originally I was supposed to start in October, November of 2011. Like my first conversations with Eric were probably I started talking to him in May and June of that year, and I had never worked on a feature. I had auditioned for Coraline, but had not gotten hired on Coraline. So I did not have feature experience like Sarah did. And this was actually something for a lot of us who came out of television animation in the late 90s into the early 2000s, is that there had been no features made in the United States since James and the Giant Peach. And so the people who had feature experience were people who were older, who had been around during Nightmare and James. And then Corpse Bride was done overseas. So if you had been lucky enough to be able to get a visa to work as an American overseas, then you had experience. But the rest of us all came from having television or commercial experience and no feature. So when people were applying for Coraline, it was like, that was a big part of it. It was like, oh, well, you have no feature experience.
They were kind of snooty about it too, the feature people, like, oh, TV.
They were like, oh, you're coming from TV. I don't know necessarily if you'll be able to work at this level. I'm like, oh, you mean with twice as much time? And,
exactly,
and a lot of support and a whole rigging team and 3 passes to figure it out. You don't think I'll be able to do that? But yeah, that was when I first talked to Eric. He was taking a chance on me, is what he told me. Because he's like, well, your work is good and there's stuff here that I can see and there's potential, but like, I'm still, taking a chance to see if you're coming into this at this level as an animator. So I was originally supposed to come out. I was supposed to give notice on my apartment in New York and move to San Francisco like in October. And then my start date got pushed. So I wound up leaving New York early, like end of November, early December, and finding a place and then starting literally January 2nd, 2012. My first day, I walked in and Eric's assistant, the animation director's assistant, walks me to a stage, and I said, "Oh, cool! Is there a script that I could read so I could kind of get familiarized with the project?" Because I had only seen what Eric had shown me, and he had shown me a test that he had done. And I was like, is there a script I can see? And she just laughed. And she said, there's 6 pages 1 through 6 that I could show to you, but otherwise we have no script.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, I've made a horrible mistake.
So this is the high level of feature filmmaking.
Yeah. I didn't know any better.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. It was a situation where I was like, there's no script. And I then spent the next I think I got a puppet for a few days that first week, where I just was handed a puppet and they were like, go. I was like, what do you want me to do with it? And they're like, just test it. And I spent some time just figuring out the puppets, doing poses, and then Eric, our animation director, would come in and he was like, well, what's this supposed to be? And I was like, I don't know. Direction. What do you want? So I think he was kind of looking to a lot of us to figure out, to just kind of like take it by the reins, figure out like character, play around with it. And so I had to basically, it was a very quick learning curve for me to figure out like, oh, what is expected of me here? Like, what do I need to do? There's a lot of research, there's a lot of R&D that's happening at this point in the process, because it was a good 3 months before I even got to a point where they had something ready for us to actually shoot.
Yeah, it was quite behind. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, I wanted to ask, did they not even have like character bios, like any kind of character Bible to get you started on who these characters were? They
kind of did for the 2 main characters, but it had part of the reason why my start date had been pushed is because there had been a big shift in the script. It had been like they had shown story reels to Lasseter and everybody, the brain trust over at Pixar, and they just decided to just completely change direction on the entire script. So it sounded like they killed off character, they like cut characters, they got rid of things, and then they were restructuring the entire thing. So by the time I got there in January, it still was in flux as to what was happening. They had a somewhat of a structure that still existed, but it wasn't it wasn't very clear. So I spent a lot of time actually sitting on my computer on my stage, going through the server and searching through all of the story, like going back to see what had been done, going through and seeing what story reels were up, what like scenes, because they had it kind of, they were doing story and animatic based on scene and sequences. And those were getting approved. So certain parts of the movie were getting approved, but not the entirety of it. So it was a very different process than what I expected. I had kind of thought we would be going in, why would you start a movie without a script? And apparently that's something that, like, what I've learned over the years is that's something that happens a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
So
it's
Kathy, you were one of
really bad. Yeah.
You were one of the people that spent were you like Kelsey spending a year up there doing like testing and stuff? Like, I don't know how you guys did that, to be honest. The few months I spent searching for things to do, I don't know how.
No, that was the hardest part of that job, was when they were basically, I was self-directed to do something, and clearly I wanted to prove myself because it was also my first feature.
Right.
And Kelsey and the other juniors were like, had come out of school and they had this sort of energy and like, let's just throw some tape together and make something. And I had come out of making TV and I just wanted to animate. So I was like, well, this is hard. And like, there were two other cup of coffee people from Toronto there as well, Kevin Perry and Charles. Charles was like the first person doing shots. So he was actually, he didn't worry about that. He was just animating. But I remember the rest of us were kind of just like trying to figure it out. I didn't touch a puppet till maybe the last few weeks of production. It's such a core memory for me, where I finally got a puppet. I was animating, the animation looked good, and Eric came into my studio, and I didn't know this at the time, but they'd already decided to shut us down. And he was like, yeah, this looks great, you're ready to shoot. And I was like, yeah.
Oh no.
So like, I was always searching for approval from Eric because he had such a high standard of expectation.
I mean, Eric's like the best in the world, so
yeah, exactly.
That was part of the reason why I wanted to work specifically on that, because it was an opportunity to work with the same team of people that were on Nightmare Before Christmas. So it's like, in addition to working with Henry, it was working with Eric, it was working with just the best of the best, and on all the personalities that are involved with that. But like, I loved working with Eric. I learned so much, and my animation I thought was much better. Like he could really pinpoint exactly what it was that you needed to do to tweak the shot, like to tweak your animation in order to make it hit.
Yeah,
and I had never had anyone explain things, like be able to direct me in that way before. Yeah, and I felt like I learned a ton.
I totally agree. It's a rare experience to have a boss in animation who really understands how to elevate your work, rather than just trying to put their own stamp on it. Not that that isn't part of it, but I think that was the first time where I was like, oh, they want us to bring something. They want us to show what our skills are so they can get something good that's unexpected, or expected, either way. I wonder if you had a similar experience, Sarah. Were you shooting when you first started?
Well, first, I just want to interject, just props to Eric for creating a very balanced work environment where he actually hired, I think that's like the only time I've had it was like 50% women, maybe. I mean, it was a lot, and that was amazing. I've never had that before. So I just wanted to
he was very intentional. Yeah, he was intentional. I remember he was, he would like even come to ask when he was hiring an animator, like, do you know this person? Do you like working with them? Like, he cared that the team would get along, which was like a shock to me at the time.
Yeah, so that was great.
Yeah, he also, I think when he hired me, one of his things he says, he goes, my job is to protect my team, protect the animators. So it's like he really thought about Like, I mean, I think he still does in all of his projects. I like would love to work with him again on something, but I don't know if it'll be as an animator. So far, I don't have the same skills I had. I'd really have to start animating again and do it for a long period of time in order to get to the
briefly
level
overlapped on the movie he's on right now, right?
a little bit, yeah. He was actually really sad I wasn't going to be over there when he was working on it. Yeah, he was like, "Oh wait, you're not going to be here?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to be here and moving on to something else." Yeah, I probably can't really talk about that one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
that part out.
Well, you didn't say anything that
I know.
gives anything away.
It's very vague.
It's very vague. He's working on something somewhere that's not here.
Yeah.
That's enough said.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sarah, did you start shooting shots right away? Or were you in that weird limbo period where we were all waiting for things to kick off?
I think I had a puppet pretty quickly. I remember having Hap, and he had like the sleeves, and I did like a walk and a few things. So I think I was, because I came in later, I was luckier than you guys. But there was I still had to do a lot of like, I would finish a test and then it would be like, it's just empty on the stages. It was like trying to find Eric or somebody to tell me what to do. Like, it was just a lot of trying to figure out, I need to be proactive. I don't want to not do something, but I'm not sure what it is I should do. And it was
Sarah
a little
spent
stressful.
a lot of time sitting on my stage in the lounge chair.
That creaked a lot.
That's what she did. Yeah.
I wanted to ask that because, like, kind of amongst this little bit of chaos, I guess, where no one kind of had the script to work from and you're figuring out what to do individually, is this where people did come together? Like, did you kind of seek each other out on your cruise and just ask, "Hey, what are you up to?" or introduce yourself? Like, I wonder how that dynamic was happening.
Yeah, and that's how we got really close too, is we had all this extra time to hang out with each other. So, and just experiment together, be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And it would be, we'd show each other stuff. And so definitely it was a good bonding experience.
Yeah, one of the things that I did to try to make work for myself, because sometimes there was a lot of times we didn't have things to do because there was a limited number of puppets that were actually final puppets that were actually made or approved. So once those puppets were made, they were on set shooting with one or two of the animators, and then the rest of us were kind of in this limbo phase of like waiting for a puppet to be ready, and like waiting for sets. And so I started just going to the puppet department and being like, "What do you need tested? What do you like?" I started kind of saying like, or I'd go to Eric, I'm like, "What do you need? Like, do you need stuff for Shadow Girl? Do you need stuff for this? What do you need?" Because at one point they gave me a moth that like all of the junior animators had animated moths like for 6 months. And he was like, "Well, here's a moth puppet." I'd like to stay with this. And I was like,
moth.
I know. I was like, I don't think you need another test of this moth. I'm like, what else can I do that's like not a test? Like, you have 50 tests of moths in here. So I think I would like, it's like at one point I was like, okay, what can I do to like, what does puppet and armature need help with? What do they need help testing? And so I was testing stuff for Shadow Girl towards the end, before we were shut down. So it's like I was just going and being like, okay, what can I help with? What can we figure out here? But it was a lot of trying to make your own work and having to be super proactive. And you couldn't just, otherwise, like, you were just sitting around waiting for someone to give you something. And if you didn't walk off your stage and ask somebody for something to do or how you could help, you could be sitting there doing nothing for months.
Yeah, I think we were kind of aware that like things were not progressing well in the story department and in the design. Like they were really busy, but they weren't feeding us because it kept changing on their end. I remember I was in like the facial animation CG department for a period of time. I was doing like what it was a blocking pass of all the animatics that came out. I was like shooting a rough pass with really, really rough puppets, then editing that, then putting effects in that, and then I would pitch it to Eric, and if he liked it, he would pitch it to Henry, and then I would record all the like camera data and positioning of the camera and like with rough sets and stuff like that. So like that wasn't stuff that I thought I would be doing when I started the project at all.
That was kind of fascinating, though. All of that stuff that you like, I know you and Kelsey and Kevin were all doing a lot of that, and I thought it was super helpful for kind of figuring out how things were, like the blocking of how things would look, and
Kevin's
timing.
blocking pass was amazing.
Yeah,
he did like the whole movie or something.
Yeah, Kevin always outshone me in every single activity we were compared to. But yeah, Kevin was doing like full animation with the jankiest puppets I've ever used. And he was on his knees on the concrete floor. And I remember at one point I went to Eric and I was like, I need knee pads or something. I'm dying. My body is falling apart.
He's like, you're weak. Kevin's doing it with no knee pads.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was such a fun experience for me in a lot of ways, but in other ways, like that sitting around period was really hard. Like, especially, I don't know, like Eileen, maybe it sounds like you had a similar experience where you like, I wanted to prove that I could do it, and I just wasn't getting an opportunity to really do that. I know you did a couple shots though.
I did. I got to do about 4 shots in the like Hap and Richard's bedroom scene, which was kind of nice. I was really glad I got to do something, that I didn't walk away from that project with nothing to show, which I know there's some people who didn't have anything. And so I felt like it was a challenge to, like, it was a really, those shots that I did, it was fascinating how long one of those shots would take me. It would be weeks to do that because of the multiple passes and the going back and forth with rigging and with art department and with set puppets, and having like the one, the character had to have a bubble of spit, like, and figuring out how that was going to work, and kind of R&Ding that before they made it for me. And it was also specific in a way that most jobs that we do, we don't have time. I don't ever have that much time. It was a luxury. And I think if I had continued down the path of working in feature animation, it's something I would have flourished. But I also, after the whole project shut down, it was like there wasn't an option given to many of the female animators on that team to go on to another project that was a feature.
You say many, I would say none.
Basically all of the female animators were not offered roles elsewhere at other companies.
I did test at Leica, but there was one role, and Kevin Perry tested against me. So just like Kevin. I mean, he was a better animator than me, so I sort of got it. But it was, that was a rough period. Sarah, did you do some shots on the project as well before we got laid off? I'm pretty sure you did.
I did. I have a few that are in there.
Yeah,
you were doing the stuff with Fern, right? It was the staircase stuff.
Stuff in the staircase, yeah.
Yeah, which you can see online now. The like promo they put together is on YouTube. I've seen it. So for anybody listening who wants to see like the art behind the Shadow King that was canceled, a lot of it's out there. You can find it. Which at the time I was like, no one's ever going to see this again because it's going into the vaults forever.
It was actually really a couple years later, like I think it was the first glass festival up in Berkeley. Henry had a screening up there. He had basically he was one of the speakers, and they had a whole thing with him, and he showed it was the first time he publicly showed any of the work from Shadow King was at the Glass Festival, and I got to be there for it. And it was really emotional, actually, watching it in a room full of people who weren't involved with the film. Because we had watched it in the screening room while we were working on it, but with the other crew members, but I'd never seen it. I'd never had the opportunity of seeing a project I worked on and I animated on in a room full of people that didn't, an actual audience. So it was really...
That's the rush you get. That's why we keep doing it. That's why we torture ourselves. Because then you go and you watch it, and people watch it and react, and it's like you feel so good about that.
That has not been my experience. I get like Eileen says, I've almost never seen my work on a big screen with a crowd, and I've also
because it's a really nice feeling.
Like you asked me before we started recording, what's a big difference between the U.S. and the Canadian industry, and a big one is that I worked on so many projects I never saw finish because they would air in the US and we just had no way to access it in Canada.
Oh man.
VPNs.
Well, that was before.
Well,
That was
now
before
we,
VPN.
yeah.
Wow.
But we
Yeah.
also didn't have many feature films going on up in
That's
Canada
also
until
true.
more recently.
Yeah.
We had a few here and there, but it was mostly, kind of as we were saying earlier, as you were all talking about, that kind of delineation of groups between television and features. And I know one of the earlier features I worked on when I was kind of a senior layout artist was the Babar movie, when it was animated by hand in 2D. And kind of talking about the theater experiences, I think that was the second movie I saw in theaters. And it wasn't quite the crowd reaction I wanted, or I was expecting, because the crowd were all preschoolers and their parents, and they're all running around when they got a little bit bored, but they enjoyed the movie. But when you're in a theater full of preschoolers and they get kind of a little antsy here and there,
That's a tough
and then,
audience.
Yeah.
it is, yeah. And I learned that experience was oh yeah, I forgot these are like little kids and they can't necessarily sit through an 80-minute film, right? So, but you take it for what it is. Like, you get to see your name up there, you get to see everybody's work, and you can be proud of that no matter what that project is. And as long as it reaches the audience, and hopefully some of them, even if they're 3 years old, can appreciate 5 seconds of it, then I feel like you've done something.
I mean, if you work long enough, also, you run into kids who saw your work and who are now adults and have an attachment to it.
Yeah.
So that's a nice experience.
That's the thing that's weirding me out. And I did some volunteer work at I did some volunteer work at my kids' high school. They have an animation program, actually.
Cool.
And I couldn't believe how many of the kids were like, "Oh, I love Moral Oral." And it's like, you weren't even born when it came out, first of all.
Yeah.
And then, second of all, why are you watching it at this age? You're too young for that. So I'm like,
so inappropriate.
They get to watch everything these days.
But yeah, or
I know,
Robot
it is-
Chicken. I
Yeah.
post clips of it, and I get all these people like, that traumatized me when I was 5 years old. It's like, why are you watching it at 5 years old? I thought our audience was adults. Like, I'm so confused.
Yeah, it's like Robot Chicken was on at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And I get so
You should
many
not be
comments
watching
from
it as a
people. It's
5-year-old.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all toys, right? So the parents are probably like, it's kids' toys, just let them watch it.
Right.
Either that or the parents were watching the show and the kids
Yeah.
saw it because the parents were watching the show, or
Yeah.
their older
Yeah.
siblings.
I feel like traumatized is a bit extreme. I watched The Simpsons when I was younger, and there were inappropriate jokes in that. It didn't traumatize me.
I know.
Simpsons
They're all blaming me
isn't
for being traumatized. I was like, it's your fault for watching it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
I
Gen Z
watched a
people are
lot.
just traumatized by everything.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of horror movies when I was a kid. I think
Yeah.
I saw The Exorcist when I was 10 years old, and I actually quite liked it. It didn't scare me at all. I was just so ingrained and caught in the moment of the film. I know that's not animation, but it was that thing. I just got
Those
lost in the
things are scary,
storytelling.
and they did traumatize me as a kid because I should not have been watching.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw Jaws when I was 7, and that was pretty traumatizing.
That's so good, though. Jaws is such a good movie.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it scared
Also,
the crap out of me.
Poltergeist is
Yes.
Oh
scary.
yeah,
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mom covered my eyes in the theater when he rips his face off. I didn't see that till I was an adult.
Okay.
She did the
Wait,
mom thing.
but she took you to the theater to see it.
I know, it was the 80s, right? Like, what were our parents thinking?
Did she think it was like a sequel to Casper the Friendly Ghost?
I
Or?
saw Nightmare on Elm Street in the theater too, but that was my dad.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
No, I had nightmares for a year.
Maybe it sort of explains why we all ended up in this profession, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk to you, Sarah and Eileen, a bit about career pivoting. Right now, I think that's a big topic, we're covering in our podcast. But I'm also thinking on a personal level too. It's just well, there's not a lot of work in animation. How do I pivot? And it does, even though it's still within the industry, I think producing and directing are different roles, really big different in what your day-to-day life is like. I'm curious, Sarah, how you find directing versus animating, or what got you into that?
Well, I think Eileen's pivot is amazing because producing is, she can work on anything now, and she went above the line, which I think is, that's more
Yeah, for
pivot-y,
sure.
I think.
I
So
wanna
directing is
get
a natural kind of path. Sorry, but I don't
I
find
do want
it
to
so
get there.
much of a pivot because I don't feel like I've done, other than I'm running my own business right now, which for me,
That's a big
the pivot because there's not a lot of work out there to work on. So I do everything myself. Then I like get jobs and I do the whole everything, the idea, the animation, the editing, all of it.
So
you're a one woman band.
I am.
Who
I do
basically
hire some people for things I really can't do very well because I'm doing a
Right.
Disney project and I hired a composer, an illustrator, and somebody and Rebecca Stillman to make the book cover because she's really good at that. So I have my limitations, but for the most part, I have to do everything myself.
Well, okay. Well, that's a big shift. Finding work is something we don't do as artists. Like, how do you find work?
Yeah,
Or
well,
project?
that's still a good question because I need more than I have. But at the
Right?
moment, I started. Do you know the site Tongle?
No.
It's international, so you can be anywhere in the world, and they put up these jobs, and you bid on them, and then they award the job to whoever they like the pitch the best, and then you do the job. So it's like for brands to do social media content, and so I started doing that, and once you start doing that, you get to know the producers there. So then they come to me with stuff as well, so I don't always have to pitch like on the site. They just come and they say, "Hey, we've got this thing. Do you have any ideas for it?" So that's where I get most of my work right now.
That's cool. And what kind of work is it? It's a lot of commercial work.
Well, so like for a long time, one of the biggest clients that I did a lot of work for was Nickelodeon, and so I was doing lots of stuff to just advertise their all their stuff like animating SpongeBob SquarePants stuff or a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I animated the toys when they came out. So there's a lot of toy animation. I did work for these building bricks called their Builder. They're like Legos, and it's like there's like a lot of hands building stuff. Like then I started doing like live action stuff essentially instead of not even animating because it's like, well, I have the setup, I can do all this. So whatever people will pay me for. I pitch weird stuff and like they say, yeah, do it. So like I did this thing where I animated like a zoetrope on an umbrella for it was a SpongeBob thing, and I did that, and I don't know, just like maker videos, like people like seeing stuff about stuff.
So are you pitching?
Cool.
Are you pitching the concept as well? You're like,
yes.
Like you pitch that whole idea? Okay,
everything.
Cool.
Yeah. So I come up with like, usually I brainstorm and I'll have like 20 ideas and I give them to them and they say, we want this one. And that's what I do.
So on this website, do they essentially do like a request for pitches and anybody can kind of submit their pitch? Okay.
Anybody.
Yeah, it's a little bit similar to just the normal commercial process where there's production companies with directors and the agencies go to they basically throw it out to a bunch of different directors and have them pitch on it. But this is like more direct to kind of like direct to any director, anyone who wants to pitch to it. It kind of cuts out the middleman of the big agencies, but they're lower budget projects. But
yeah, I was gonna ask.
They are. So that's great for the clients because they don't have to spend as much. But
you presumably have to budget now to that budget and make it work for you, right?
So it's a lot of creativity because I have very small budget and I only make money off of it if I can not have to spend a lot on making it.
Yeah.
So that's where the creativity comes in.
Of course. Yeah.
So then there does seem like there's overlap with producing in that sense.
I mean, in some ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's, I think Eileen's job is then I have appreciation for how hard that is. So.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk about, Eileen, what you're doing now. I know you've coordinated, you've PM'd, you're producing. I'm assuming there's lots of overlap in that area as well. But like, what is your day-to-day like and how different is it from all those other roles that you've done?
Right now I'm working with a company called Open the Portal based here in Los Angeles. And I've been doing commercial jobs for them where I've been producing a bunch of different commercials. Last year, we did a huge campaign for this healthcare company based out of California called Kaiser Permanente. They're like a US based healthcare insurance. And that was a really interesting campaign because we did a big 60-second spot and then we did 2 30-second spots. So it was like 3 spots that we had to build and shoot all at this kind of at the same time. It wound up being a 5-week stop motion animation shoot that we had to turn around pretty quickly. Like, job got launched the beginning of July. We had to be done shooting the first one by the end of August. So it was, my role in that is I got brought on at the very beginning phase of, like, which was 2 weeks before it awarded, of looking at the treatment that the director had done, and all of the requirements that the agency and the client needed, and coming up with a budget a budget and a schedule for what it was that it would take in order for us to do it in the time frame. So a lot of times you'll get this needs to deliver by this date, and then I have to back everything into that date and figure out what it's going to take. And so I find, like, my experience as an animator and a creative and understanding all the different parts of the process has really been helpful for me to understand exactly how long things will take.
I just want to say also
exactly
that makes you one of the
needed.
best producers I've ever worked for, because you understand stuff in a way that nobody else does. So no, really, seriously, I think the best.
I could see that being a huge asset.
Of course.
Having now gone from being an artist to, like, doing some manager stuff, I'm doing a little bit of coordinating right now. Like, I can see how that experience relates directly to solving any issues that come up, because the solution I'm offering comes with actual experience that tells you whether it's possible or not.
Mm-hmm.
You've got receipts. You're like, here you go. This is why this can happen or not. And part of the job, at least when I've been working on the commercial side of things, is it's a different situation when I'm producing something. Like when I was working on Marcel, I was the UPM on that, and I was like on the ground producer on a day-to-day throughout the whole shoot. So it was like I was helping facilitate the whole creative process. It was like a little bit more relaxed in some ways, where it was more kind of like, it was a feature, but it was also kind of felt like a series, like when you're shooting a series. Like, so you have multiple stages and you have like teams of people that are working over the course of months, and you kind of settle into a rhythm. When you're on a commercial, the difference is you are working at an accelerated pace, and you're also justifying every single thing and having to answer questions to people who don't understand the animation process whatsoever. Like when you're in series and film, most of the time people understand. They're coming from the world of animation. They understand the process. They're all trying to make the best version of it. And in commercials, they're trying to make the best version of it, but there's also people who come in with, like, you know, comments that make absolutely no sense, and you're having to they're like, well, what if we did this? And I was like, here's the 15 reasons why we can't do that, and then here's what we could do that kind of gives you what you want. And so there's a lot of horse trading in figuring out how to give the client and the agency what they want and also not kill your team.
Right.
So I spend a lot more time, like the difference is I spend a lot more time on meetings and emails and texts, negotiating and calling things out, and having to be really quick as to, like, when they're trying to slip something through that you're like, nope, that's not, we're not scoped for that. I use the word "that's out of scope" more than I've ever used in my life.
Well, I can tell when I'm on a project where somebody is saying that, where there's a producer saying this is outside of scope, and when I'm not, because every single request that comes down the pipe we end up doing, and it just balloons out of control. And actually a lot of projects I've had that happen on fall apart. Like, the project goes away, the studio falls apart. So, like, that's a hugely important part of the project, and I imagine it's extremely hard to say no to somebody who's paying your bills, right? Like,
I love saying no to people, but I always say no to people. Like,
that's why she's good at her job, because she knows.
I'm not like I'm maybe I'm not always liked, but it's above the line. But it's there are times where, like you're saying, there's a lot of people who will say yes to a lot of things to be accommodating. They want to help out. They want to make sure that everyone's getting what they want. The director's getting what they want, and the agency's getting what they want. And I think there's a point where it's like, yeah, is this choice making the overall better? Then yes, we should accommodate that and make sure. Is this just someone wants to do something because they want to put their finger in it and make like leave their mark, but it makes nothing better. It makes it worse.
That shouldn't just be your job to do that. As I was going to say, as a director, I try to think about, is this thing going to be on screen long enough? Is it important? Is it any difference in the story? It's also important as a director to not ask for things that aren't important, because you're killing people. It's like, I don't want to kill you unless it's really important.
Yeah, and the better directors I've worked with, we still make a great product, but they have like a clarity of choice making based on understanding of like what's possible and what can work, that makes the experience of working on it better, but also makes the product better and usually gets it over the finish line in a better way. Like I've worked with a lot of creatives who like are great creatives, incredible vision, but because they don't know how to find it quickly, the projects, they fall apart, they don't get done well a lot of the time too. So yeah, like that, I think where you and Eileen, Sarah and Eileen really overlap in terms of like efficiency of role is understanding what the artists are doing, right? Like,
well, we started out in low budget stuff, so I think that makes a difference. People who come from features are like, everything should be beautiful and perfect.
Right,
it's like, no, it doesn't need to be like this. We come from a world where you learn to make the right decisions.
Well, and it's understanding those parameters, right? We have parameters by budget, by schedule, even by talent sometimes, and you want to empower and engage everybody as best as you can, but there are certain limitations within those parameters that you always have to be cognizant of.
And sometimes those parameters make your work better if you work within them. It can be a really enjoyable process. Yeah.
And all of them, I mean, every project is different. Every project has a different budget, has a different expectation. So it's like with basically what we've been talking about since the beginning of how scarce work has become and how the industry is changing, it's tough because there's a lot of people who are like, well, the budgets are lower and lower and lower, so I'll just keep accepting that. And I think there's some people, it feels like a race to the bottom, where people are just accepting because they're like, we don't want anything to go away, so we'll accept anything and we'll promise that we can do this. And that's not helpful either. But it's hard. We don't always have a situation. Well, we don't always have a situation where we can like stand firm and fight for the right amount. And that's hard because it's like, you could be like, I can't go below this, and the job could go away entirely. So there's risks, but there's also like, do you really want to put yourself through and the team through something?
Exactly.
Trying to do it at that budget and that timeline when it's not really possible.
There's got to be a line where, okay, we can take a loss on this. And if we do take this much of a loss and it crumbles the studio, it's clearly not worth taking, right? Like,
exactly.
So you have to like understand what's too much, too far to go. And I all the studios that have closed that I've worked for clearly didn't know how to draw that line.
Actually, I worked for a small studio for a number of years where they were pretty good for the most part, but there were definitely a lot of projects we ended up declining, and even one project we handed back when the costs were starting to add up on our end, and it was because of the production company just not understanding where they needed to draw their line with what was being delivered to us so we could then service the work. And it was something small like that. And this production company had been around many, many years. So it's not like they didn't have the experience. They just mismanaged this project from the beginning.
Yeah, maybe we could talk, like as we're wrapping up here, there's a lot more I'd like to chat with you guys about, but maybe we could talk about what the LA scene is right now. So a lot of our listeners are Canadian, so like it's a really different industry, but I suspect we're all suffering at a similar level. But Canada is sort of a service industry here. So when you guys don't have work, we don't have work. So I'm curious what it's like for you guys.
Not necessarily, because a lot of times we don't have work because it goes to Canada.
Exactly.
That's true. Okay, fair enough.
It's when you don't have work that we're in trouble because like there's not even work to send to Canada.
That's true. It kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you say scene, I'm sorry, I just react because I wouldn't even call it a scene anymore. What is it? I don't even know. Eileen, how would you describe it?
I mean, it's much, much smaller than it was a couple of years ago. There's still like, at least for stop motion, there's still Screen Novelties, Bix Pix, Stupid Buddy, Starburns, Shadow Machine. But although Shadow Machine, all their stop motion is happening, whatever stop motion they're doing is happening in Portland. They do
and
have
Starburns
a 2D.
also sent a lot of stuff overseas, just to say.
Yeah, Starburns has a project that's happening in London right now. That's a stop motion live action film, and that they did pre-production in Los Angeles, but they are doing the actual production in London. But yeah, Stupid Buddy and Bix are both like, I think what a lot of the studios here have done is they've kind of shrunk their footprint from what it was before when they were in full series mode. They've kind of shrunk down to what they can do that's manageable at the moment, and then they'll expand when they need it.
Yeah, they're much smaller now, all of the studios.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even have a space anymore. They only rent it when they get something.
Yeah. So, Apartment D, that's another one that's here. And Apartment D is doing. They're probably the youngest of the studios, and that's Max Lopez and Tammy Kwan and Scrappiest. They're the youngest and Scrappiest. But yeah, they're really. It's and everyone's doing something different. Like Apartment D is doing a lot of toy-related content for the web.
Yeah, they're doing their own series. They're trying to get this thing. They've done a couple episodes, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are just trying to do they're kind of trying to come up with their own work and their own ideas and content, because things aren't really being bought by a lot of the studios aren't buying anything. A lot of the streamers aren't buying anything. There's this weird freeze because of what was happening with Skydance and Paramount, and now with Warner Brothers and Skydance, and no one knows what's happening. And Netflix is like weird about,
and we don't know where AI is going to come in. It's like everybody doesn't want to do anything right now because they're waiting to see all this stuff.
So do you see more people like in artists just doing their own content, like trying to start their own things?
Yeah, that's the survival right now.
Yeah, I think it's ultimately, I mean, that's all terrible for the industry on a commercial level, but on a creative level, it is interesting to see people stepping away and doing, like, trying to start something new. Do you think things are trending in any particular direction, or it just feels like everything's on hold?
I mean, I want to be optimistic, but it's so hard right now because I can't even picture what it looks like, the industry in like 5 or 10 years. Like I think we're going through a change that's so big and different than we have before that I don't even know. I don't know what's on the other side.
And the thing is, it's not just animation. It's the entertainment industry in its entirety is changing in a way that, like, stop motion specifically over the course of like the probably 27, 28 years I've been in it has had these like highs and lows, like where there have been really deep valleys, like 2003, there was nothing. 2009, there was absolutely nothing, like no work for a whole year after the financial crisis. And then there was this whole uptick from 2010, 2011, like up through to 2022. And then it just dropped off. And so there's 10 years of like 10, 12 years of like so much work in features and series and commercials. And then the pandemic happened. And after everyone relied on animation during the pandemic to prop up the entertainment industry, they just like pulled out the rug from all animation across the board. So it's a really weird time.
And because there was that big boom, there's extra people, like the industry is flooded with people who are talented and can do this job. And now there's no work. So it's worse than before because the competition is so stiff because there's just so many people now. It's just oversaturated.
And globally, we're going through a very volatile time. As you said, it's not just our industry. There are a lot of industries globally that have suffered since COVID. Essentially, it's like this weird perfect storm that has been building for the past number of years.
Yeah, but in a lot of ways, like, I'm not saying I don't disagree with you. This is a really intense period of time, but I've, like you guys said, like I've been through periods of low work before, so it doesn't, not that I know the answer or how to navigate it 100%, but the level of anxiety I might face in this period of time versus someone who's coming out of school and just trying to start their career or had one project, like that's got to be a lot more intense than myself. Like I have some confidence that, like, or I don't know what if the word is confidence. I just have like a calmness where I'm like, well, I'll get there, like
because you already have the resume, at some point when it picks up, you'll get it. But I can see if you're graduating now, it's like, I don't have anything. So if they have to pivot to something else, they may never come back.
True. Yeah. Or 100%. It's different. It's a really different time. And like, maybe we could just roll into our last question here.
Hopefully more upbeat because
well, I usually is an upbeat thing. What was a time or period or challenge in your life that you faced that you overcame and feel proud of? It's kind of a softer question, but Sarah, do you want to go first?
No, Eileen, you go first. I want to hear.
Oh, that's great. Thanks.
Who's in charge here?
All right.
She's like, I'm just going to throw this back to you, Eileen. Sarah, you're going.
Well, okay. So I was trying to remember, obviously the biggest challenge I think right now is this like period of unemployment. And honestly, the biggest challenge of it is that the longer I go without, I mean, at the moment, I've been lucky. The last year I was really busy, but like the year before that, it really hit hard. And it's really hard to remember that you are good at what you do and that you should be in this industry, because I feel like the longer you go without work, you kind of lose you question yourself, you question if you're any good, and you lose that sense of purpose. And I think that's the hardest part, is trying to remember I am good at this, I can do this, and keep doing stuff. That's the challenge I find.
Right. Well, it sounds like that's what you're doing by starting your own business.
I mean, I'm trying to stay positive and be proactive. Yes. Because if I don't, then I start to, all the self-doubt comes in, the imposter syndrome. It's bad. It's really hard to think that you're good when you don't have work for a long time. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't understand ever why Sarah has imposter syndrome. She's one of the best animators I've ever known.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, if you don't work, you question it. You know, it's like, why am I not being hired? Yeah. So like, that's again, very sweet of you to say, but that's what I'm saying. It's like,
I know, but your self-worth, like this, honestly, this is also kind of part of the reason why I pivoted to production, because a lot of times, like, I had a really hard time just being an animator and feeling good about myself as an animator. Like, I had a lot of self-doubt, and also I'm surrounded by people who are so much better than me, and that
you've always been good. Just to tell you, you always think less of yourself than you are. So
I don't feel like I was as good as a lot of other people, and because it is a personal thing when you're hired as an animator. It's like, are you good enough? Are you fast enough? Like, that is such a reflection of that it feels like it's a lot of judgment, and it feels so personal. And there's part of me that's like, well, I switched to production. Was I like, was that the easy way out? Not the easy way out.
Right.
But it was, it's like all jobs, like, you feel like it's a personal thing. Like, am I going to be hired or not? And I learned over the years, I'm like, it's not personal, it's casting, and not every actor is right for every role, and not every animator is right for every job. And as I've been working as a producer, like, realizing that when I'm hiring people too, it's like, this person is right for this person is not right for this. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're not good and they're not of value. It's just, it's a different thing. So
I think when you're getting notes, for example, as an artist, it's really easy to take it personally, be like, oh, this is personal judgment. But having now been a supervisor and an animation director, when I'm giving notes, I'm not sending out a judgment towards that artist. I'm just like, no, let's like, this is just how we should go forward. That's all. It has nothing to do with who you are and your skills.
It's funny, throughout, whenever I was animating, if I was animating a commercial, never felt any judgment on the actual notes that came back in commercials. Like, because I'm always like, this is coming from somebody who knows nothing, or it's coming from somebody who has a very specific thing that has to serve a client and serve a purpose. But I felt differently when I was working in series and features, because it was so much more about performance. And I was like, I'm being judged by my performance. And so it was like a very different.
I have to say, my experience on acting, Coraline is where I built my thick skin, because I stopped being so personally attached to a shot, and it's more about what does the director need. So I'm pretty good now about getting notes where it's like, okay, that doesn't work. We'll do it another way. Like, it's not about me. It's about what you need as a director for this
Right.
scene or whatever. So
I think that's very common. We get kind of lost in the weeds, as it were, and we forget what is the purpose of that shot. Like, what does the actor or the character need in that shot for that shot to be successful, to tell their story, right?
yeah, the big picture
it's
is
not
really
about
important.
it's not about the animator and what exactly like you're doing. It's about how it fits into the whole. And there's a lot of times we'll break things out into A, B, and C shots, and it's like, what's an important shot that really needs to hit, and what's something that is actually facilitating the whole and doesn't need to. You don't need to spend 5 days on this shot if it's a C-level shot. Sorry, I don't think that answered what was my challenge in life.
You can go ahead and do
I'm
it.
most proud of getting. I honestly, like, the thing I think, and probably all of you feel this way. It's like getting this far in my career in animation and still doing it.
Also, as a woman, just to put that in there, challenge, overcome.
Of course, yeah.
For you too, John, as a woman.
yeah. I feel my wife has gone through very similar challenges. She's also in animation and has worked as a director. And obviously, through the years that I've been with her, and even earlier on in her career, there were lots of challenges we all kind of go through. I'm not trying to diminish anyone or anything, but it certainly has not been easy for women in animation. So I'm glad it's changed, but I think there's still a lot of room that we have to make up for as well.
This is a whole other episode.
Right, sorry.
Talk about this. Not that I don't
actually,
want to.
You know, Eileen, I liked your answer, because I did want to ask, like, you know, I know we're going a little over time here, but I did want to ask something in a similar vein, which is, what does it mean to each of you to be in animation, right? Like, if you were able to talk to your younger self, what would you say to that younger self that's like, it was worth it? You know, obviously, disregard the whole state of the industry right now, but for you personally, what does it mean to be in the industry at this point?
I know for honestly, the thing for me that I love the most about animation is the community and is the people I get to work with. It's sometimes less the final product and it's more about the process.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked on a couple things where I so much more enjoy the process of working with the entire team from start to finish on something, and going through like the stuff that never gets seen at the end, like problem solving, figuring things out, kind of coming up with creative, like how everyone on the project brings something different to it and makes the final outcome different than what you expected in the beginning. And it's all about the alchemy of the team working together. And that's that and the community in large is kind of what I don't think I expected in the beginning when I wanted to go into animation. Was what I think it was like, I'm going to make these beautiful things that are going to be on the screen that people can see. And for me now, it's kind of what's up there is nice and all, but it's more about the process.
Amazing. Sarah, how about you?
No, I mean, that's for sure. The people are everything in this business. And when I worked in CG, which also when we were talking about overcoming, because I said I had a challenge, but I didn't actually overcome that one because I'm still going through that. But learning CG for me, I know, Kathy, you seem to roll into it easier. That was a big challenge for me to do that. So the fact that I did it and then worked on a feature film in CG was like, that was huge for me, because that was a really steep learning curve.
Wow.
Oh, so it was a question before I got off. Oh, other people. Yes. Okay. I wanted to read something because this was really funny. I worked on this movie when I first got to LA called Disaster, which I'm sure you never saw, which is really, it's really bad, right? I mean, we knew we were making something that was bad, and we were having the best time because it was just a bunch of people goofing off and having fun every day. But I just saw recently that there's reviews for it on Letterboxd. And at the end of the movie, we did these like pixelations of ourselves as crew members. And somebody wrote this review. They wrote, as the credits roll by, it is honestly sad to see the faces of all the lead animators who thought this would be their big break after pouring so much hard work into it. Yet you are subjected to this display of people that had no idea what the outcome would be, had no say in any part of the story. They're just doing their job. They did a good job. The sets are great. The figures are great. The animation itself can be a bit choppy at times, but overall was well done. none of them deserve to follow someone with such a sorry excuse for an idea. I'm just laughing because like none of us thought this was our big break. It's really good. Nobody felt that way. So we're just partying and having a good time.
Can I say it is very, very rare for people to be like, this is going to be the thing. Like a lot of people, if it's not working, people know it at the time. And sometimes it's like, this is the job. This is the paycheck. This is a means to an end. What can I learn from this? What can I take away from this project? And 100%. Then there's other projects where you're like, I really believe in this. This is something that's going to be something great. And I know it. And those are rare.
Yeah.
Like, I think Marcel the Shell with Shoes On was probably one of the projects that I've worked on that while I was in it, I was like, this is going to be great. And this is going to be important. And I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes the projects that you know are going to be really strong, like the Cinderbiter one, I was really new to features, so I couldn't really tell. Like the work looked amazing, so I was like, maybe this will be amazing. But at the same time, it was a mess, so I'm like, this feels weird. But a lot of the projects, like you were saying earlier, Eileen, that are under the radar, there's nobody who's like, this is going to make or break the studio. Like those are the ones that turn out the best, and the crews are the best, and the experience is the best, because the expectations are not that we're going to alter the universe with this project, you know?
Mm-hmm. I've had someone when they were hiring me, try to like do a lower salary because they're like, but it's going to be a classic. It's going to be a Christmas classic. like Rudolph. And it's like, you can't say that. You don't know. And so I'm not going to take a pay cut because you think it's going to be like Rudolph.
It's going to be a classic, like these 7 other stop motion Christmas specials I've worked on in my career.
A number of times I've heard that too. I was told once we were doing a series. This was not preschool per se, but just kind of above preschool. But all the stories were based on classic literature. And they gave that line. I'm like, so the Count of Monte Cristo animated is going to be a classic for these 6-year-olds? I don't think so.
Oh man. Well, I could keep chatting for a long time.
There's just so much to cover.
I know there's a lot that I wish we could chat about. Maybe we'll do episode 2 with you guys. But I wanted to thank you guys so much for coming on. This was such a personal pleasure for me. So thank you, Eileen. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm all like, I've been laughing, so I've been crying. So that was fun.
Her mascara is running.
Yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know
it's not video. It's just audio, right?
Yeah.
I want to say thank you as well. Like, you're both great guests. We'd love to have you back and continue the conversation. But it truly was amazing today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
The Animation Career Community podcast is created and hosted by Kathy McDonald and John Lee. Music by Mike Romaniak, mixing and editing by Kathy McDonald, and produced by Kyrene Kim.